on the overview.
So, Madam Chairwoman, members of the committee, Jessica Bartholow with the Western Center on Law and Poverty. Just want to I want to respond to a couple things on the update. First and foremost, welcome to the new bureau chief and her work here. In fact, the first week of her time in Sacramento, she responded to disasters in the Valley Fire and Calaveras and Lake County. The response was tremendous. We saw a very coordinated effort and a collaborative effort with advocates and county and state and federal agencies, all very organized. There were things that we learned. There was a follow-up call to figure out what were those things that we learned and we could do better. So the thoroughness with which the department addressed the Valley fires, I think, really should be commended. A lot of times it's too easy to kind of forget that we have disaster and that it comes and then it goes and we forget about it again. So I do want to just congratulate them for that. I also really appreciate the budget change proposal request. The vision behind the fact that our goal is to continue increasing the participation in the CalFresh program, our country's best defense against hunger, both for children and elderly adults and working families. We do want to find more ways to reach working poor. We continue to have the lowest participation rates in the country for people who are working and poor. The best solution to that, of course, is increasing the wage so that somebody who works all day doesn't have to go stand in a welfare line or go online and apply for benefits. But until we do, and until the wage is enough to pay for rent and food and prevent hunger, we really want to dig down deep and see how we can increase participation of those who are eligible for these federal benefits. And so we do support the request for additional funding for expanding participation in the program. And just finally, that we encourage the committee's follow-up on the able-bodied adult without dependent implementation here in California. So far, so good, but it could impact about 400,000 Californians, and who even if they're looking for a job would be denied benefits unless somebody gives them one. And so we are very concerned and working diligently, all partners included. So thank you again for all the work that's being done and for hearing this issue today.
Thank you very much. Next witness, please.
Hi, Madam Chair. Andrew Shane from the California Association of Food Banks. Just want to second the comments made by Jessica, as well as to really praise the efforts by Ms. McCoy-Wade. Just to highlight some of the pieces in the budget change request. She has been an amazing leader in moving around the state and understanding the complexities of our state-run but county-administered system, also with the layer of the consortium between. So I think the BCP really responds to that in terms of having 5 folks around the state dealing with some of the unique challenges that do occur in local areas, yet trying to provide that statewide response at the same time. And I would also just want to highlight the fact that the food banks are part of the outreach community that did help folks on the ground in those fires. We deeply appreciate the commitment it took to make that happen. It is not easy to find folks when they've lost, they're not used to accepting benefit, et cetera. And some of those learnings were so well captured in the follow-up. And again, thanks to the department.
Thank you, appreciate that. And final witness.
Noé Páramo, California Rural Legal Assistance Foundation. I stepped out, but just a comment on the CalFresh program. I want to support the outreach efforts for immigrants and farm workers, especially since farm workers are underutilizing the program. So the outreach efforts that are being done to address their needs, and also the impact with the drought, because that's a tremendous thing. So we have to look at it from a long-term point, not just a short-term point that the drought food assistance program is just conveying. Thank you.
Yep, and we're going to hear that oversight next. So you're right on time. All right, we're going to hold that item open. We'll move into issue 10, the Drought Food Assistance Program, page 31 on the agenda.
Sure, again, Todd Bland for the department. The Drought Food Assistance Program was created by the legislature and the governor in 2014, originally as part of the drought emergency legislation enacted that year. Originally, it was 24 counties most impacted by drought, with both a high concentration of farm workers and a high unemployment above the statewide average. We leveraged the existing emergency. We leveraged our contractor, Food Link in Sacramento, to essentially purchase the food and distribute it to their network of food banks that run the federal emergency food program. To date, we have we have distributed 1.1 million boxes. The program began in May of 14, and later last year, the program was actually expanded by the legislature to include 5 more counties, and so we're now serving 29 counties. I'll say one more thing about FoodLink. They actually, when the packing of the food occurs, and we order the food in phases, they pack it into the 25-pound boxes, then those fit very neatly on a pallet, and the 25 pounds was by design. It's a weight that people can literally carry away. The packing is done by unemployed, essentially homeless people from Loaves and Fishes. They do that, they get the job. I've actually visited FoodLink where the packing goes on. With respect to outreach, each of our FoodLink food banks operating the program works with farm worker organizations and other outreach organizations in their community to work out a distribution approach that makes sense. This is generally not a program where it's come to the central food bank. There are on-site distributions where the farm workers are. We think it's a successful program. We're moving, so essentially we deliver about 50,000 boxes every month. The budget includes about $18 million, and that would run the program through the end of the budget year at current levels.
Excellent. Any questions or comments from LAO or Finance? Public comment.
Andrew Shane again with the California Association of Food Banks and FoodLink, as well as the food banks throughout the Central Valley, Southern California, where this program is being administered. I'm deeply grateful for the partnership, the advanced planning. This is a very nimble, effective program and how it's being administered. I would also point out just 2 quick things. Number 1, as much advanced planning as we can do is extremely helpful. So the fact that we're talking about already the next budget year is very helpful for the food banks who are actually hiring staff out of their own budgets to be able to administer this on the ground. For example, staff who are helping connect folks to CalFresh at these distributions, those who are eligible. And then the second piece I would just want folks to know is that food banks are doing everything they can to supplement these boxes with fresh produce, connecting folks to utility assistance programs they may be eligible for, to the Red Cross. I'd be happy to provide more supporting materials, but it's far beyond the box on the ground in these communities.
Thank you. Were food banks engaged at all, like in the Medi-Cal, Cover California application process? I mean, sharing that kind of information as well? It didn't occur to me until you just mentioned the utility assistance.
Right, sure. Several food banks are engaged in that.
Excellent. Thank you. Next witness.
Madam Chair, Noep Adamo, California Rural Legal Assistance Foundation. So I'll just reverse what I was saying before and say, understand that the Drought Food Assistance Program is a short-term fix for the need that's going on in the Central Valley around the state, particularly as it impacts farm workers. It's a much-needed program. It's appreciated. In addition to the challenges with nutrition, food access, the income, the health, the housing, the jobs, the under-income, the eligibility are all issues impacting. But this is a key link to help them get through the challenge they're facing now. Although it's short-term, we look to see long-term remedies, and such as access to the CalFresh program and the other emergency food assistance program. So we thank the update from the department, and we thank the administration for the continued allocation of the funding.
Thank you. Very much appreciate that. Moving on to issue number 11. The committee intends to take action on 11 and 12, so does Mr. Mining returns, but let's start with the BCP for raising CalFresh children's enrollment.
Yes, I covered this somewhat in the overview, but I'd be happy to speak on it in greater detail or answer any questions if you'd like.
Hang on one second. I have none. LAO or Finance, any questions? Any public comment on issue 11? Seeing none, we'll move on to issue 12, the trailer bill for defining CalFresh contracts as cooperative agreements.
Yes, this is when CDPH used to run outreach and nutrition education, 2 of our community-based contracts, they had different authority than we do when it came over to us. What was lost was the flexibility to move grants around below the main contracting line. So for example, if your local agency in San Rafael is underspending, but San Ramon is succeeding, you can move money around without a full contract amendment. So this would just simply take the CDPH authority and give it to CDSS so that we could manage the contracts as they have been.
He voted aye already.
No, it's not on this one. He voted
He
no
voted
on-
yes on the trailer, though. He was aye on the trailer, but he was no on the BCP.
Yes. And
He was aye on
Chantel's
this.
expressing the concerns on 11 to Holly.
All right, thank you.
Great.
LAO, Finance, any comment? None. Public comment? Perfect timing, Senator Monty.
Andrew Shane from the California Association of Food Banks. We're one of the largest CalFresh outreach contractors with the state. We just want to be in strong support of this. As an agency that moved from CDPH to CDSS, that flexibility is wonderful. Currently, the amendment process to making budget changes can take up to 6 months. This flexibility is streamlining. I think we can all agree it's a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Next witness.
Thank you, Jessica Bartlett with the Western Center on Law and Poverty, also in support.
Thank you very much. We are on issue number 12. Senator Monty, any questions you have?
No, thank you.
You ready to vote?
Yes.
Let's have the roll call, please, on issue 12.
Senator Mitchell,
Aye.
Senator Monning,
Aye.
And I believe with Stone's vote, that's out on a 3-0, correct? Thank you. Senator Monning, if we can, let's return to issue 11, the Raising the CalFresh Children's Enrollment, BCP. Roll call, please.
Senator Mitchell,
Aye.
Senator Monning.
Aye.
And I believe that's out with a 2-0 vote, sir. 2-1 vote, excuse me. 2-1. With that, we'll move into our proposals for investment, issue 13 on the agenda. And we'll hear from the State Emergency Food Assistance Program. Excuse me, we'll hear from Andrew. Pronounce your last name, Andrew. Shane. It's very simple, Holly. Shane. From the California Association of Food Banks, who will present on the State Emergency Food Assistance Program. This is our only panelist on this one. Perfect.
I believe I provided the sergeant with some materials that hopefully have been.
We have them, thank you.
Okay.
Pass, yeah,
Sure.
thank you.
So just very briefly about our association, we represent 43 of the food banks across California, including the Los Angeles Regional Food Bank and Second Harbor Santa Cruz. Wonderful folks. And just to give you an idea of the scale of our operations, we currently provide approximately 650 million meals annually to more than 2 million Californians unduplicated. So we're reaching at least about 5% of our population. But we know that hunger is even worse than that. According to the USDA, we have more than 5 million Californians facing hunger, including 1 of every 4 children in our state, right? CalFresh, as we've heard, is our vital response to this issue, and let there be no doubt. We are outreach operators. We work very closely with both the counties and the department, and of course, staff and legislators such as yourselves to try and improve the program. And it's been recognized, as Ms. McCoy-Wade pointed out. We're thrilled with the award from USDA and the recognition that we've moved substantially from approximately half participation overall to 2/3. But let's just take a step back from even that, because even if we were at 100% participation, there would still be the need for an investment in the State Emergency Food Assistance Program. And that's reflected in the piece of paper that has as the chart. As you can see, several of our peer states, including Washington, which does have full participation in the program, still makes that investment. And here's why. As seen in the other chart, this is directly from the USDA Economic Research Service. We know that 1/3 of families who are connected to the SNAP program or CalFresh here in California are still facing hunger. They're still visiting food banks, right? I mean, even in the name of the program, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, we know that these benefits, they're running out by the end of the month. Under federal guidelines, we're on what's called the Thrifty Food Plan, right? As the analysis notes, the average household monthly benefit is $304. Folks are still facing hunger, even if they're connected to the program. So why CFAP? So CFAP is an amazingly efficient program, right? We're using existing CDSS infrastructure so that according to the formula around unemployment and poverty, each county gets its allocation, right? And appropriately, they're only buying California-grown foods, right? So we're keeping these dollars in California. We're growing connections between our agricultural communities and our neighbors in need. But just to put some perspective on our ask of $10 million, Feeding America estimates that it would take $3 billion at the retail cost of food to close the meal gap in California at the retail cost. Food banks are obviously gigantic logistical operations. We're buying at scale, right? We're not going to Costco. We're going to farms. We're getting semi-trucks full of food. So we could do that for approximately $325 million, right? So our $10 million ask, we're not even asking the legislature to develop what we would consider a fully proportional response. Nevertheless, that $10 million would provide 50 million meals, right? We're providing about 5 meals on the dollar, right? So that is a substantial but doable scaling of our operations. Like I said, we're already at about 650. So this would be 50 million additional. This would make a serious dent in trying to address and end hunger, especially amongst children in California. And I would just remind the committee, as I'm sure you're well aware, that there are costs to inaction in this area. We know from research from UCSF that hospitalizations spike in the 4th week of the month, right? Folks who are trying to manage their medications and their chronic diseases, don't have enough food, they can't take their meds, they end up in the hospital. We know that several studies document that children's health suffers, in fact, long into adulthood. So again, I would just look at the amount of preventative work we can do with what we would consider a modest but important investment. And again, I would second the comments made previously around the Drought Food Assistance Program, just to distinguish that is essential, but it really is targeted temporary relief that is designed to meet the elevated need due to the drought emergency for agricultural communities that are affected and have economic displacement. So thank you so much.
Much. Tell me how Washington gets to 100 participation on the SNAP program.
You know, there are several reasons for that in all likelihood, but they do enjoy some benefits from being a smaller state than us. Obviously, we're dealing with a very complex society here in California. They also do enjoy in some ways a more centralized system, which I think reduces some of the challenges we face. I mean, I think the budget change proposal speaks to the fact that we are seeing different challenges across our system here in California, and there is oftentimes not one easy solution. If I may, I believe you've toured up there and may be able to speak to it in a more on-the-ground fashion than I can.
Yes, Director Lightbourne and I have been there, and really it is the operational access. Because they are one state system with one centralized call center and one centralized website, the ability to shift labor around and get people on quickly is something we're trying to replicate in our 19 biggest counties, but each of our counties has their own system. So it takes us longer to. We've got lots of great innovation, pieces of it happening all over the state. I was just in Stanislaus County yesterday seeing how they're serving people who can call whenever they want to get an interview. Self-initiated, really big help for, that's a new effort, even if that, when we establish and prove that, replicating that across the Los Angeles area even of itself is what takes us longer here in California.
Wow, that's significant.
It is.
Thank you very much. Senator Monning, please.
Thank you for the presentation. It's very helpful. If the $10 million were allocated, how would it be distributed? It doesn't sound like a lot for a state the size of California and with the challenge of hungry families. You said the 10 million would translate to 50 million meals, but how would it be distributed around the state?
Correct. So it would use the existing TFAP formula. So there's a federal commodities program, which is called the Emergency Food Assistance Program, and not CFAP, TFAP, and it uses a formula based on the percent of population of unemployment and poverty for each county, and also has a minimum amount for each county. It's sort of, you think of the analogy of our federal system where we have the Senate and the House, right? As much need as there is in Los Angeles, we do need some of the dollars to flow outside of Los Angeles. So every county does get some, but the rest is apportioned based on the need relative.
And the infrastructure is there, so it would all go to meals?
There is a very small overhead piece that would have to come out of this, so it wouldn't exactly translate all into meals, but there have been 2 one-time donations from the Assembly Speaker and prior speakers, so I would just point to the track record. What happens is the food banks purchase the foods, they submit the receipts to CDSS, and they get reimbursed, so there's verification built in. It's also just very simple, very efficient.
Thank you.
Other than the 2 one-time, that's California's entire history of participating. That's why we've got this big.
Currently have 0.
That red 0. And the only 2 times have been through the largesse of the speaker as opposed to anything in statute. And all these other states.
Oh, right, there is a small amount of funding that comes in through the state tax check off the emergency food for families.
Got it.
Which is in the mid-hundreds of thousands.
I was going to ask you how much, yeah, because those don't tend to be big yields. Compared to these other states, New York with a state contribution of 34 million, 19 million.
I mean, if I may, I would point out that even Texas finds a way to appropriate nearly $3 million a year.
Fancy that.
So
I see it. I see you, Texas. Right. All right. Thank you very much. We appreciate you bringing this investment from your mouth to exactly, Senator Bonning. You'll note on the agenda, we want to thank the advocates for bringing these proposals forward, and you'll note on the agenda the 2 additional concepts that were brought to our attention: increased funding for school breakfast meal reimbursements and startups, and to require CalFresh certification periods to the maximum period allowable under federal law. Again, the proposals for investments were concepts brought to our attention from the advocacy community. Any comment from LAO, finance, general public on the investment proposals?
Jessica Bartholow, Western Center on Law and Poverty. We, again, second the recommendation that the committee consider investments in emergency food assistance. The SNAP program, especially with the ABOD time limit approaching, it is going to be really important to have reinforcement in our emergency food systems. Additionally, the support, we also support the idea of ensuring that counties requiring that they maximize the certification period for CalFresh recipients. That was something that we had hoped we gotten taken care of last year, and are looking for reinforcement in that policy this year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Senator Monty, any questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Thank you very much to the LAO for our CalWorks kind of primer. Thanks to the department, Director Lightbourne for hanging with us all afternoon. We appreciate the attendance and participation of all those who participated in our second hearing, and Sub 3 subcommittee will stand and adjourn.